Okay, and we're live. What's up? What's up? What's up? How y'all doing? I think I need to be sending the show. What am I doing here? Sending the show to too many people. Hold on one sec. I'm like sending this to like 1,000,001 people, but let's do this. Hold on. Oh, what am I doing? Sending it to the groups. Yeah, let's remove that. That's cool. Yeah, that's fine. All right. So you know how we do. We're just throwing the show up on a bunch of different places. So let's be done with that and let's go live on TikTok. Welcome back to the barbershop. Yo, it's been a minute. How's everyone doing? I missed the show. I missed everything about it. I missed all y'all. So that's exciting. And we're going to go live on TikTok. Welcome to the barbershop. I am your host, Dr. Christopher Salute. We are so excited to be coming back to you. Tonight, we are talking about the Will Smith and Jada relationship. And we're going to talk a bit about the slap heard around the Oscars, right? And I know that we're a little late to this, and there's a couple of reasons. One is I took a month off of the shows that I was putting together because I really wanted, and Cece can attest to this, this is the year. We want to make this show an actual monetized thing. We think we have intelligent things to say. We think we're getting an audience. We believe in the show, and we took a month off. It's that TikTok. I took some time away. But we took some time off to put together a sales and marketing strategy to make sure that we're good. So Cece was just saying, we put these things on Roku, we put them on Amazon TV. So it's like you're going to get thousands and thousands of views. I will say this: if you're watching our show and you have not advertised yet, you should be advertising because this thing's about to blow up. So that said, before we get into the Will Smith and Jada kind of thing, I've got some stuff that I like to talk to you about real quick. We're going to talk about who the show is brought to you by. The show is brought to you by Going Solo Media, Going Solo Network. This is the Going Bold Network on Wednesdays. It's brought to you by Bold Magazine. It's brought to you by Fabu Plus. It's brought to you by That Professor Life Coaching, right? So what's been going on with me lately? What's been going on with me is I'm working a lot. I'm teaching a lot. I've got a couple of books coming out. We're relaunching our magazines. I'm happy in a relationship in the moment. And so life is just pretty darn good. It's pretty darn good. Now, what's up with the network? We've got a lot of great shows. Mariah says, I'm here for it. Love it. Thank you for supporting. We've got a lot of great shows on Horizon. And so we're just super excited to bring them to you. Before we start our show and before we get into the Will Smith and Jada kind of thing, let's do a quick moment of silence or a quick prayer. I like to pray. Just think of somebody important in your life. Maybe it's you. You need a little help from the universe, right? We like to do this real quick. So before we get going, let's give up some spiritual energy. And Cece's probably hating this dead air right now because that's the worst for radio. That's it. Just give yourself some good positive energy. Give yourself some good flow. So let's really jump into what we're talking about today. Today we're talking about the Will Smith and Jada relationship, the Oscar slap heard around the world, right? Let's do a very, very quick recap. And if you are watching on TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, whatever, correct me if I don't have something right. Okay, I'm going to do a quick recap because I think it's super important to just let everybody know what we're on the same page about. Now, what you originally saw. Now, I'll be real. I don't know. CC's down below. Thank you so much, CC, for killing it. But CC, I don't know. Do you watch the Oscars or not? I don't really watch the Oscars, and I don't think a lot of folks from my generation do. I literally was on social media and I heard the Oscars. It just started. All of a sudden somebody puts this thing on the Oscars that Will Smith smacked Chris Rock. And I'm like, oh, okay. So now I go watch the clip. Now, here's what you saw. Here's what you didn't see, right? Chris Rock makes a joke about Jada Pinkett Smith, right? Will Smith gets up and you know what happened, right? Jada doesn't laugh. Will Smith laughs. Then he sees Jada's face. He decides to make a move. He gets up and he smacks Chris Rock. Chris Rock is laughing at first, and then he's not laughing, and then he comes back down, he gets my wife's name out your effing mouth, blah, 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 right? He apologizes. Chris Rock does not apologize. Now, here's a couple of things that we'll talk about throughout the show, and I need you to correct me, right? Here's a couple of things that you may not have seen that we need to talk about. Number one, everyone, we'll talk about this in a second, but everyone's saying that, oh, Will Smith was laughing and then he wasn't laughing. There's two versions of that, right? Number one is people are saying, well, he saw Jada's reaction and he responded accordingly. Jada, and him have, there's an unhealthy thing there, but and that could be true. The other part of him laughing, though, is that Will Smith is an entertainer. He's on the Oscars. He may be, he is taught to deal with uncomfortable situations, right, as an actor. And also we'll talk about his memoir in a little bit and see how that affects, his lifestyle. His life has affected how he reacts in certain situations, the fight or flight kind of thing. But, anyone saying that, well, he was laughing and then he wasn't, it could be Jada for sure that influenced him. It could be the fact that he was uncomfortable but didn't know how to react, right? Then he gets up and he smacks Chris Rock. Now, here's what I was told, and I read about a little bit before that, and I read some conversations that happened with him and Chris Rock. Chris Rock had made fun of Will and Jada Pinkett Smith already a couple of years ago. And so he said something like, Jada Pinkett Smith, and he does that rest. Jada Pinkett Smith boycotting the Oscars is like me boycotting Kim Kardashian. I wasn't invited, and basically saying Jada Pinkett Smith doesn't really matter if you come to the Oscars because nobody cares, right? I believe that Will Smith in that point in time had said to Chris Rock, from what I read, he said to Chris Rock, do not make fun of my family. So I believe that there was already a warning before that happened. And then Chris took another shot at Jada Pinkett Smith. What you also didn't see at the Oscars, that's a very prevalent part of this conversation, is that Jada Pinkett Smith was, in fact, very verbal about her alopecia and how that kind of impacted her life and that kind of thing. You know what I mean? Now, there's a lot of footage that says that she laughed after she saw the smack, so that's important to note. And then don't forget, Jada released a very kind of cryptic statement, as said on Uprocks here. This is a season, and I'm for healing, and I'm here for it. And then she basically said, we're doing some healing. So before we jump into the relationship, I wanted to recap that for you. Shariva says, didn't watch, not a fan of any physical violence, but I'm sorry. Good job, Will. He was protecting her emotions. He laughed until he had seen her hurt. So that's definitely one way to think about it, Shariva. And I want to jump into kind of the dynamic of Will and Jada. Now, a lot of people gave me slack about this on social media. I got a couple of people who unfriended me. Will and Jada's relationship, as we see, is a little bit more complicated than just a man coming to the aid of his partner. There's also a lot of other things at play. Will coming from where he came from and talking about in his memoir the abuse that he experienced, also coming from West Philly, which is not a great part of this of the U.S. Also, being a man and resorting to violence is one thing. And I'm going to say this, and this is I cannot empathize, but from what I read and what I know about Black culture, being a Black man in this country, they are encouraged more than white men to resort to violence because of just the culture that they've grown up in, what they see on the media and that type of stuff. So Will, there's a lot of things that happen in Will's brain, I would imagine. I'm not in Will's brain. I'd have a lot more money if I was in Will's brain and his body, but there's a lot of things at play there that actively had Will smacking Chris Rock. So on TikTok, we see Missy Mouse saying it's a toxic relationship. She's a narcissist. I want to jump into that in a couple of minutes. And just so that I'm going to be skipping from TikTok over back to Instagram and then over to my YouTube and Facebook. So just find us. It's right on my profile. You can check that out. In fact, that being said, I'm going to end the TikTok. So just so that you all know, before I let you go right onto my profile. You can see the Facebook and the YouTube links, and you can click on them and you can interact there. But thanks for watching on TikTok. So we end with Missy Mouse saying that Jada's a narcissist and it was toxic, and I can see that. Let me put that comment up. I sort of felt like hitting is an inappropriate response. As we are taught in kindergarten that violence is not how we react to people saying things are mean. He could have been overcompensating because of his relationship being toxic and felt like he had to do that. Oh, that is like music. I like hearing that because that's similar to how I feel, but it definitely isn't how people should handle things in my personal opinion. Now, I tend to agree with that. And let's talk a bit about what that means. I liked Will's apology. He took accountability for his actions and ended it with grace and sincerity. I agree with that too, for sure. I'm just putting up this on Instagram, and then we'll get back to the show. So let's do that. So I want to talk about a couple things. I want to also acknowledge all three of the people involved with this. Before we start talking about Will and Jada's relationship, I want to acknowledge three people that this impacted, right? There's Will Smith, there's Jada Pinkett Smith, and there's Chris Rock. And in all of my podcasts and all of my shows, I will typically start listing and talking about some movies that relate to the topic. Now, I can't really talk about movies that relate to this topic, but I thought what I would do is talk about a couple of things that all three of these very, very talented people have done. And I want to acknowledge that they are talented, intelligent human beings, and that they are human beings and they make mistakes, right? So everything from Hitch to The Fresh Prince, and believe it or not only was Will Smith in The Fresh Prince, but Chris Rock was in The Fresh Prince for a couple episodes, to producing things like Bel Air and Cobra Kai. That's Will Smith, right? Chris Rock was in Jada Pinkett Smith was in Menace to Society, the whole Matrix series. She rocked it. Gotham. She also produced Karate Kid with Will. So that's probably a point against her because the new Karate Kid sucked. Then we've got Chris Rock. I mean, we know Chris Rock from stand-up, but New Jack City, the Grown Ups couple of movies, the Madagascar series, Chris Rock is a legend as well. So before we jump into, who was right, who was wrong, let's acknowledge that these three individuals are intelligent human beings. They've done a lot for for media. They've done a lot for show business. They've done a lot for the Oscars Academy. They've done a lot for their culture. They've done a lot for their families. They are human beings, and they made some mistakes. So let's jump into, the actual, not just the slap, but Jada and Will's relationship, because a lot of people are talking about this relationship and how did this come about, right? So we've talked about Will Smith's and Jada's relationship in the past, right? So what have we said about Jada and Will's relationship? Well, we've said a couple of things, right? I have personally made statements and I'll stand by them. Coming from somebody who has been in open relationships, I've done the poly thing, I've done monogamy. I found it peculiar a bit that when Jada talked about their open relationship, how received it was by the general public, versus if Will had talked about being in an open relationship. Now, this is my bias, and you might say I'm a little chauvinist, but I'm going to say that I'm trying to be as unbiased as possible. You put me and my partner up on a podium, and we make an announcement, and one of us says, we both say, I'm in an open relationship. You do an A/B test, right? Similar demographics in the room, similar demographics in the crowd. I'm gonna bet, and I will bet anybody dinner, that if my partner, I'm straight, so my partner would be a woman, right? If my partner got up on a podium and said, we are in an open relationship, it's what works for us, and we love each other, it would be met with oohs and ahs and a lot of, oh, you go girl, that's brave, blah, 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 all that kind of fun stuff, right? It would be much more accepted. Now you put me on that same podium with a very similar, if you put me in a podium with a very similar crowd, and I said, my partner and I have an open relationship, it's what works for us, we love each other, I would get booed. And I know this, or I think I know this, because of what I've put on my profiles when I was dating. When I've put things on my dating profiles that said I'm in an open relationship or I'm poly at the time, whenever I was doing that, right? I didn't get a lot of matches, and a lot of people contested it, and people didn't have nice things to say, right? But I know that when women say that, it's a little bit more accepted. Right now, it could be because men typically are slime balls, and so it's just one straw that breaks the camel's back. I get that. And it also could be that men are, oh, hey, what's going on? It could also be that men are more accepting because we like to spread it around a little bit, who knows, right? Mandy says she publicly emasculated him in the past. I can totally see why he reacted the way he did. I really do want to get to that because I think that's really important. Mariah says emotional maturity is pretty important. He's a public influence. With the violence in our world, it is sad to me that this has become something to be celebrated. I'm glad that he apologized. That being said, he is only human, so mistakes happen. It was pretty intense to react that way. Gosh, Mariah, that is freaking, oh, thank you. Nice haircut. I appreciate that. Thank you, Erica. WGSN, all the focus seems to be on Will, but Chris Rock was inappropriate about his comments regarding Jada's condition. Do we make fun of people with cancer or some other disease? No, Chris Rock doesn't get a free card simply because he is a comic. Chris Rock should also take some responsibility in his actions. Oh my God, there's so many things here. So number one, a lot of folks are saying, hey, let's not compare alopecia to cancer. And I get that. They're two very different diseases, but I get what you're saying, right? I use cancer a lot. My mother died of cancer. So I feel like that gives me I can talk about the cancer card, right? But Chris Rock making a statement about here's the problem, right? Oh God, there's so many things, right? Chris Rock, first of all, he's a man of color. Jada Pinkett Smith is a man of color. Will Smith, woman of color. Will Smith is a man of color. Chris Rock made that documentary about hair and about how important a black person's hair, especially a black woman's hair, is because it's unruly. It's challenging to sometimes to find products for. There are different types of black hair. I mean, there's an infinite amount of types of black hair, but it becomes someone's identity in so many different ways. Men, women, white, black, whatever. Me personally, I don't like anything when we talk about somebody's physical appearance, especially something they can't change on the spot. And I've said this before, when people are making fun of Donald Trump, right? I've said this. There are so many reasons to make fun of a jackass, right? And you could take politics out of it. Trump has tweeted some stupid stuff, whether you like him or not. He's said some really, even his followers have said, he said some stupid stuff. There are so many ways to make fun of someone. Do not resort to physical things that they cannot change. You want to make fun of the way they dress at an event? Cool. Because you know what? They were brave. They took a shot and they deserve to get some slack for it if it was stupid. And they know that they're going to get some slack. And that's part of that process, right? I don't like making fun of something that someone can't change. Erica says, I have an autoimmune disease. I get it. But his joke was about G.I. Jane. Yes, I get it. It's so touchy, right? For sure. Let's jump into the actual Will Smith and Jada Pinkett Smith relationship, though, right? So this came about because we've talked about so many different types of abuse, narcissism, all these types of things. Now you know me. I had somebody on TikTok say narcissist just a second ago. I'm not a fan of using that word unless it's clinical, right? Why? Because narcissism is a pretty volatile thing to call someone. It's a pretty serious thing to call someone. Less than 1% of our U.S. population are narcissists. Now, is Jada Pinkett Smith a narcissist? Could she be? She could be. I don't know the answer to that. So I'm not going to use the word narcissist because I can't, right? I can't use that word realistically and knowing. I don't know her. I don't know, those types of things. Now, can I say this? Knowing a bit of what I've seen, could she be a bully? Yeah, she could be a bully, right? Let's talk about a couple of things here. Number one, Jada, if you don't know the history between Jada and Will, nobody does, right? But there's a history there, and there's a couple of things that Will and Jada have gone through publicly. So I'm not in their home. I'm not in their beautiful mansion home. I'd love to be. Jada, Will, hire me. I got you. I'll be your butler. I'll be your Jeffrey from Fresh Prince of Bel-Air. I got you. I don't live with them. But here's what I can tell you about what I know about their public persona. The first thing that you may not know is that Jada and Tupac Shakur, right before Tupac died, Jada Pinkett Smith, back when she was Jada Pinkett, they had a really close relationship, right? Now, why is that important? For a couple of reasons. Number one, Pac and Will are very similar dudes in the grand scheme of things, right? I'm not saying they're both rappers and they're black dudes from different parts. No, that's not what I'm saying, right? In the relevant world of all the different types of people you have, they could be similar, right? Pac and Will were both entertainers. They both didn't come from great parts of town. They both had rap careers. Now Pac was just getting into acting and kind of switching between the two. Will really kind of stuck with acting and kind of stayed there. So a lot of differences, right? Pac, back in the day, if you listen to hip hop in the 90s, Pac and Biggie were it. I don't care what anybody, Nas, Jay-Z, Snoop, I don't care. Dre, all great artists. For like 2 to 3 years, it was Pac and Biggie, especially surrounding both of their deaths, because posthumously they had released some music, right? Pac was it, right? You're Will Smith, okay? You are Will Smith. Your girlfriend, Jada, right? She is enamored with this guy. Now, you could say it was not romantic. You can say it was romantic. She's enamored with this guy in some sort of way. Now, we're going to talk about how that made Will Smith feel after we take a break and after we get off Instagram. So if you're on my Instagram, love you. Come on to my profile. You'll see everything on Shoreby, and you can join us on Facebook or YouTube. And with that, we're going to take a quick break. Oh, no, we're not taking a break, CC says, but we do have to take a break from Instagram. So I'll see you on one of those platforms. No break. That means that we are not selling ads tonight. And that means not only to be buying some ads, they're cheap. Get some ads going. Let me post this on my profile because I think people like to see it later. Jada and Will. We'll label. Let's make it clickbait. Jada and Will drama, right? Let's see if that works. And then we'll tag the Bold Network. We'll tag WGSN. We'll tag BBM, and then we're good to go. Okay, and we're going to add it to the barbershop. Sorry for this delay. I know that that's such a pain, but it's important that we get all of our social media out there because you know what? We like to broadcast our show. You know what I mean? So let's do that. All right. Share it. That'll do its thing. So now that you've joined us on whatever platform you're joining us, right? Let's hit up this comment and then I'll talk about how that made Will Smith feel. Mariah, I agree. Chris Rock was totally in the wrong, but the mature response isn't to go straight to violence and solve issues. Again, just my personal opinion, but if it was handled slightly differently, then Chris Rock would have looked like a standalone jerk and Will Smith wouldn't be in such trouble. I do tend to agree with that. I would feel uncomfortable if someone disrespected me and I had a partner who went up to hit that person. I agree with everything you're saying, right? Now, I want to talk about, CC says, I agree with Mariah. Yeah, so I want to talk about this, and I do. Shariva says, what we go through is heavy on who we become. What we don't know enough of what both have went through to really analyze. Agree with that. And that's everything I say is what I'm hearing, what I'm seeing. Let me hit you with this for a second, okay? So we started with the Will Smith, Tupac, Jada kind of triangle, right? Now look, whether there was romance there or not, Pac was the man with regard to hip hop in the 90s. Even if Tupac was completely, let's say, asexual, not even homosexual, let's say he's asexual, and he would have to be asexual and not have a romantic inkling in his body for Jada. Two things, right? And Jada still had this best friend in Tupac. If I'm Will Smith, I'm still uncomfortable. I'm still trying to measure up to this guy who's this incredible rap artist, who's also breaking into movies, which is kind of my thing. You know what I mean? Number one. Number two, the guy dies. And not his fault, but amidst this relationship, Jada, one of the reasons that Jada and Pac kind of broke apart from each other in whatever sense they were, right? Whether it be romantic or not, Jada and Pac left each other's side because Jada was moving into movies more, and Pac was kind of becoming more of a thug. In Jada's words, that's what she said, right? You're embracing this thug life, and it wasn't news. I mean, he was hanging out with Suge and all these guys, and he was really embracing a lifestyle that Jada thought he could have easily left behind and become a star. Now, Will had left that life behind, right, and became this amazing breakout star. That, I mean, there was a while where Will, I think he went 10 for 10. He had 10 movies straight where he made over $10 million per movie. And I think he grossed over 100 in every single movie. Like, I think the dude was unstoppable for a long time, right? So he was able to embrace this new identity as he turned it to himself, right? Now, that's a perfect segue into how does this man, who is in my eyes, and I'm not like trying to not trying to kiss Will's butt or anything. This dude is still on top of the world. Everything this guy touches is gold, right? Everything from hip hop to movies. He produced Cobra Kai, so like done, right? The guy's amazing. And then you get this entanglement, right? And there's a couple of things in the entanglement I want to talk about. A couple of things. Where's the timeline? Because I'm gonna talk about, like, I know I bring in what the experts say towards the end, but like this is important. So there's a timeline here. There's not only the entanglement, but around 2013 is when the open marriage rumors start, right? Then Will starts to address divorce rumors. Then 2018, they don't refer to each other as married. 2020, Augusta Alsina claims he had an affair with Jada. 2021, Jada discusses her and Will's sex life. At that same time, Will's memoir is released. We're going to talk about that in a second. Then 2022, no infidelity statement and Oscars incident. So they talk about there's been no infidelity statement and the Oscars incident. And you've seen the meme. You know the meme I'm talking about, right? Throughout this entire process over the past couple of years, they had the table talks, right? And you see, I can't even, because I'm not crying and I'm not sad right now, but Will's eyes were dropped, and he just his energy was leaving his body, and he's just holding himself and he's crying, right? And I have to think to myself, how does a man at this level of greatness and integrity and self-respect and intelligence, Will is one of the most intelligent dudes, and Pac was an intelligent dude too. Unfortunately, he didn't get to live to see, to see the fruits of that intelligence as much as Will did, right? But this dude who's on top of the world in all ways, right? How does his mental health start to deteriorate? Allegedly, right? Well, it starts with the meme that we all saw. He loses his identity. He breaks down, right? Then he does this like 50-year-old where he does his birthday and he does all these things for his 50th birthday. I thought that was kind of a cry for help, right? Then, they talk about all these things going on in his relationship, all this stuff happening. Then the dude marches up on stage and he smacks a colleague across the face, right? Now, that leads me to believe that this dude, his identity is lost. Now, where's his identity lost in? That's for you to decide. My honest opinion is it's lost in his relationship with Jada. And I've been there, right? We've all been there, right? You feel like somebody's on a pedestal and you'll do anything to keep them happy. If you look me up, I've dated some important folks, right? I dated an actress who was my celebrity crush. I dated a model who was another celebrity crush. And whenever that happened to me, and I've dated some other folks in those same realms who I crushed on and I put on this pedestal, and I often refer to myself as so-and-so's partner, as so-and-so's fiance, as so-and-so's boyfriend, versus referring to myself as, I'm also a king, Dr. Christopher Salute, doing my stuff, right? And so I'm not trying to make this about me, but what I'm saying is that in any type of relationship like that, you can see where a man like Will may have been, I'm alleging, right? May have been lost in the relationship. Now, we're doing a lot of if-then statements, right? If this, then that kind of statements, right? A lot of deductive logic, a lot of deductive reasoning. If he lost himself in that identity, if he lost himself in that relationship, could it be possible that there was some manipulation at play? It's possible. Here's the thing. You never really heard Will Smith talking about the open relationship. You heard Jada talking about it because of the entanglement. Now, was Will doing it? I don't know. I really don't know if that was something that he was talking that he was doing it as well, right? Maybe I've got it all wrong. Maybe as a couple, they were like, yo, you know what? This isn't going to sound right if Will says it, because of what I said earlier on in the show. When a man says that, it is taken a certain way. It's taken a certain way, right? When a woman says it, it can be taken a different way. Right? It's taken as more empowering than the woman being a product of some sort of chauvinism or controlling or manipulation. Now, we can get into the reason that a lot of people think that, and that is because a lot of men don't know how to do poly right, or don't know how to do open right, because a man very often might say, well, sure, we can be in an open relationship, but you can't hook up with anybody. Okay, well, that's not an open relationship. That's you being a D, right? So, there's with every stereotype, there's a reason that got triggered, right? And the stereotype when men say we're in an open relationship is basically men being jackasses, right? So for that one, I'll give the consensus in the population. So maybe that came about. Maybe they sat down. Maybe they've got a great relationship. Maybe Jada said to Will, you know what? If you come out and say this, it's not going to look right. Let me come, because Will, to solve the entanglement issue, could have said, you know what? It's cool. We're in an open relationship, right? But maybe as a couple, they decided to come out and say, you know what? Maybe that's not what we're going to do. Maybe Jada's got to come out with it, because as a power couple that we are, it's got to sound the way it's got to sound. But people have done that before. I mean, you've got, Tess and Nick Holiday, who were supposedly in an open relationship, and Tess denying it after the fact. Now, were they not? Who knows, right? It is what it is, right? But, the bottom line is the fact that this had to come out publicly means that there was some rules broken, right? Because it didn't seem to me like Will was very aware of the entanglement. I don't know, right? It seemed to me like it was kind of going off. And let's call it what a frick it is. It's cheating, right? Like, if I'm getting divorced and somebody says, oh, what happened? I don't say I got into an entanglement. I said I cheated, right? So here's a quick article, real quick, talking about the relationship from Republic World. It says what went wrong with their relationship, and one of the major things that it cites, right, is discussing their open relationship at the Red Table Talk, right? And here's it all started with him just needing some help, talking about Will Smith, me wanting to help his health, his mental state, said Jada. She further confirmed that her being romantically involved with him was her own personal decision. I'm sorry, talking about the entanglement, was her own personal decision, and that Will had nothing to do with it. A year later, Jada revealed that she felt guilty about having an affair with another man. So it's like, I don't know if there was an entanglement or if it was just straight up cheating, right? Shariva says, for women, it is a sign of sexual freedom and control, because everything about our body feels controlled or manipulated by the male agenda. And I agree with that. I do agree with that, right? Here's what I'll say, because I agree with that 1,000%. It is more empowering for a woman to be in an open relationship. Here's my issue with it in general. The judgment on anyone to judge that relationship. Now, the reason we're all judging the open relationship between Will and Jada is because none of us believe it, right? Again, that's why with everything I say I wasn't there. I don't know. I'm not there in their home, right? I don't know what's happening, right? Who knows? They could be freaks. They could be having fun. Good for them. Do your thing. Go to the club. Go to the swingers club. I don't care. The bottom line is, from what we see between Will Smith's meme of him crying, right? I mean, the dude was like just crazy, like out of his mind, like so upset. That the fact that I think he's really his personality, in my opinion, has changed over the past couple of years. But that could just be him aging and growing up into a different new guy, and that's fine. But now it's a pattern, right? Pair that with the entanglements, the statements, the fact that he jumps up on stage and smacks Chris Rock. To me, I don't know. It seems to me like the dude was being abused or in some sort of toxic situation. Now, interestingly enough, and I want to touch on Chris Rock as well, because what happened there, right? Interestingly enough, I want to throw this out there. You're going to give me some slack for it. When you Google this situation, every time you Google it, one other relationship pops up. I'll take a second. I want you to see if you could put in the comments, take a guess as to what other relationship pops up when you Google Jada and Will Smith. What do you think? All right, I'll give it to you in a second if you don't get it. The relationship that pops up when you Google Jada and Will Smith is Amber Heard and Johnny Depp. And we don't talk about this stuff, right? We don't talk about the finger cutting. We don't talk about the abuse on the other end. It's news when it's man to woman. It's not news when it's woman to man. And there are studies on this. We can talk about this all day. There's white paper studies. There's video studies. There's actually manipulated experiments that talk about this, that say that it's like staggering 99% of the time. It's like the numbers are atrocious. When witnessing female to male abuse, almost nobody steps in and they look away. Now, listen, I'm not going to get into what's not done because that's a whole other conversation we should talk about. But it's important to note that we don't talk about these things, right? We don't talk about these things that are headlines, right? I just wanted to throw that. I thought that was an interesting little tidbit. Now, I want to touch on the smack, and then I think we've got some comments to put up as well. But the smack. Do I agree with Will Smith smacking Chris Rock? God, there are so many factors at play. And the bottom line is, the same way I've said it the whole time, I wasn't him. I wasn't there. Now, I've said this a couple times, and I do agree with this. I think that his apology was important, and I think that Chris Rock should make a statement, and I think that Will Smith should have been sanctioned, even more so than he was, because here's my problem with it. And people disagreed with me on this, but I still say this is true. Chris Rock was representing comedians, stand-up comedians at that time. Yeah, he was definitely a movie. He's been in movies, right? He's made some CDs with music. Chris Rock is well known for being a stand-up comedian. Chris Rock was representing a community, not only so many other communities, but he was representing the stand-up comedian community. And at that moment, he was attacked. And at that moment, what we were saying as a population, what Will Smith said and what we backed him on was saying, not only can you say something to a comedian if you disagree with their jokes, but you can walk on stage and you can physically assault them. Now, that part of it, I disagree with. Now, there's a couple of things. Chris Rock made not only was it a stupid joke, not only was it an atrocious joke. I'll read that in a second. Please feel free to keep it up, CC. Not only was it an atrocious and stupid joke, it was not a good joke. It was not even funny. Now, we've experienced that before. Now, in cancel culture, I do believe, this is my personal opinion, I do believe cancel culture has gone too far. You've heard me say that. But I do believe some folks should be canceled. My opinion is that comedy should be left alone. As long as it's not highly, highly offensive, like you're not talking about the Holocaust or slavery or something like that, leave comedy alone. Let comedians be comedians. And actually, funny enough, I had this situation happen a couple of years back when I was in college. I had a comedian named Jessica Kirsten come to my university. I booked her for Relay for Life. We had 2-3 stages on Relay for Life. I was the entertainment chair, and then I became the director the next year, even given this debacle. I booked a comedian. Her name was Jessica Kirsten. She was hysterical, okay? I thought, now, my mom died of cancer. I'm not, like, out here trying to say cancer is great, right? Like, I hate cancer. I was passionate about Relay for Life. I was crying that night. But I thought, as the entertainment chair, that bringing a comedian up on stage might be a good, in the 10, 12 hours that we had, bringing up a comedian for a half an hour to 60 minutes might be not a terrible idea to lighten the mood a little bit. This was cleared by our chair. This was cleared by student services and student affairs. So everyone cleared it, right? Jessica Kirsten gets up on stage and she does her thing, and immediately people start giving her crap. She starts talking back to them, oh, we're hecklers, blah, blah, and she thinks it's like funny and they're talking. Within 7 or 8 minutes, I had to get Jessica off stage, and she talked about it on satellite radio. She had to be escorted off campus, and she was declared persona non grata. I thought that was crazy. I agree. Blame me. Maybe me as the guy who booked her, probably not the best move. I don't know. I thought it was the right thing to do. But don't cancel the comedian for doing their job. Don't cancel the comedian for trying to make people laugh, right? Number one. And definitely, you have no right to go up on stage and smack someone. Now, there's a lot more at play that we need to talk about. And let's get to some comments, and then I'll talk about what really was going on, I think, in Will Smith's head. So I think Shariva says, do we also think it could have been a show to increase ratings and views on the show? Then she says, I agree. It's not manly for a man to speak up or ask for help when the abuse is from a female. Not how I personally feel. 100%. So Shariva, do we also think it could have been a show to increase ratings and views on the show? I don't think so, because of the sanctions that the Oscars gave to Will, is what I think. But you never know that show, because I think he's banned from the Oscars for 10 years, and he stepped down from the Academy after that. I don't know if he took that back or whatever. Then Shariva says, how would you personally handle the situation? Good question. Well, assuming that there's some toxicity going on in there, and that Jada and Will's relationship is not as good as we thought it was, or is as bad as we think it is, I don't know that I would be in that situation, because I would really try to leave that situation and not be in that situation, marriage or not, right? But if I were in that situation and I was sticking up for my partner like that, whether I was in a toxic or not relationship, I'll be honest, in the heat of the moment, in the heat of that situation where I've said to Chris Rock, do not mention my family, and my wife has been on television talking about her alopecia. Now, I think somebody said somewhere that I think Erica on Instagram said he didn't know that. Before you make that joke, bro, like, you should know that, right? And I don't know that he didn't know that. I think that might be a cop-out. But me personally, I might smack Chris Rock in the face. In fact, honestly, I don't know if it would be open hand. I'm going to punch him in the face. And that's me. I don't have the millions of dollars for a lawyer. I didn't grow up in West Philly. I didn't grow up, rumbling and tumbling. I mean, I definitely fought in college, but like, that's a lot different. So I would punch him in the face, potentially. Mariah says, remember at Golden Globes, though, when Ricky Gervais was allowed to say whatever he wanted and no one hit him? I didn't see that. I don't remember that. Comedians are known for roasting people at big events. Yeah, I agree. And again, that's why I kind of say, why are we hitting the dude, right? Mandy, I feel like it's unfair for celebrities to be scrutinized for human behaviors. If this happened with John Doe in a bar, it probably would have been a knockout. Oh, I also love that as well. It's so interesting that you bring that up, Mandy. Here we are, right? We, in my opinion, this planet is in crisis mode. Okay? We are in crisis mode. Not only we're talking about gas prices, but do we understand how bad our energy crisis is? Like, we are relying on fuels right now when we are killing our planet. We've got a potential world war with Ukraine and Russia. We've got one of the biggest economic crises that's going on. I mean, Roe versus Wade is potentially being overthrown. We've got abortion issues in this country. We've got political unrest. We've got some of the craziest things going on in this world. And here we are. And here we are. We're worried about Will Smith and Jada Pinkett Smith, and we're worried about Chris Rock. Like, why? Why? Who cares? You know what I'm saying? Like, who cares? I go back to the Bronx, to A Bronx Tale. Is Mickey Mantle going to pay your rent? Yo, Will Smith is not going to pay your rent. Chris Rock is not going to pay your rent. Jada Pinkett Smith is not going to pay your rent. Why do you care about their relationship, about Chris Rock? Like, why do you care? Right? So I 100% agree with that. Like, why are we not only scrutinizing, but celebritizing these events? Like, why do we care? You know what I mean? Now, I think a lot of these questions are really important to note. I agree with you, Mariah, that comedians. I agree. I think comedians should be able to, for the most part, should say what they're able to say. Now, can we critique it? Absolutely. Yo, somebody says something about cancer on stage. Screw you, dude. Like, I'm gonna say what I'm gonna say about it. Am I gonna stop you from telling the joke? No, that's your funeral, dude. Like, keep talking crap, because you're gonna get people are not gonna see your show, and that's how you beat them, right? That's how you win, by like not worrying, like not paying for the show. You know what I mean? Now, I want to talk about Will Smith for a second, real quick, and then I know we've got some more comments, and then we probably have to wrap up. So specifically, Shariva says to me, how would you personally handle the situation? And I started this conversation by saying, I am not Will Smith. I did not grow up as a black man in this country. I did not grow up in not a great part of Philadelphia. I've been to Philadelphia. I've been there a lot. I've never lived there. I wouldn't claim to be there. It's not, I mean, I've been to some of the tougher parts. It's not a place you want to hang out in. You know what I'm saying? And so I am not Will Smith, right? I didn't grow up with his history of being abused from his memoir. We didn't even touch on that. with growing up in the hip hop world where masculinity is defined by physicalness. I didn't grow up as a man of color where much more often it is seen as more okay to use your fist than as white people, because white people are taught they should be using their brain because blah blah blah. It's all crap, right? And not only that, the stereotypes that go along with being a man of color and using your fists, now you're seen as being a thug, whereas somebody brought it to my attention. They said, what if that were Bradley Cooper? And you might have shrugged it off a lot faster because Bradley Cooper is a white dude, right? Again, I don't know. I don't know. And I'm not saying either thing is right, but there are so many questions at play. Bottom line is, I'm not Will Smith. I didn't grow up like Will Smith. I don't know Will Smith's personal history. I know what I see and I know what I read, right? Now let's talk about Shariva's comments. Him making that joke to her is worse than someone making a joke about my weight, and that to me is already not none start too funny or funny. Yeah, so don't. She said my grammar tonight. She mentioned. Sorry, it's okay, Shariva. Yes. So agreed. I'll give you a great example. Somebody when I was very young, I've dated plus size women since I've known who women were. Okay, so it wasn't a thing that developed from 5 years old on. The minute I thought a girl was attractive, she was a fat girl, and then it was the chubby girl in class all the way up until where I am now. You better believe that men have made fun of my partners, and you better believe that I stuck up for them. I remember at one point we were at a party. Some guy said, every guy in here who brought a girl gets a beer, because like if you brought a girl, you got a beer. Salute, you get two, because I brought my girlfriend. So he was implying that she was worth 2 beers because she was a bigger girl. They had to hold me back. I wanted to fight him. I left the party. I saw him a couple months later. I tried to fight him again. They held me back again. We finally had a conversation. It was not my best time. I should have punched him in the face. I've had that happen over and over and over. I had somebody say, I was going to pick up pizza. I was in high school. I was picking up the pizza. Like, we all ordered pizza, and I went and got my food. And this older dude who was a lot bigger than me said, "Oh, what's the matter, Salute? You're not eating tonight?" Because my partner was with me, and she was a bigger girl. And I was like, if the dude wasn't twice my size, I would have punched him in the face, right? So I agree with you, Shariva. As a man, and no matter where you grew up, and we talked about this in the last episode with Cece, men want to protect their partners no matter what. So maybe me bringing up Will's upbringing is biased. Maybe me bringing up Will's upbringing is irrelevant, right? Because I just illustrated 2 parts of this conversation where it didn't matter where I came. I grew up in the suburbs. I grew up wealthy as hell. I grew up as a white dude with every silver spoon you could possibly imagine handed to me. Maybe not. I didn't grow up like that. I grew up middle class. But the bottom line is, even I wanted to resort to violence and did resort to violence when somebody said that at a bar. So Mana says, let me take that back. I definitely didn't grow up with many silver spoons, but I grew up in a life that had some privilege that I'm very grateful for. I will say that. Mana says, it's so easily forgotten how human celebrities are. They're put in this separate, elevated category, and it's expected for them to not have human emotion or reactions. Men already are ashamed of showing emotion, i.e. Will Smith meme, and now it's being blown out. Again, 100% agree. We believe, I just had this conversation on social media because somebody was talking about how they were trying to raise money for their influencers, for their influencer career. And we were talking as a group about, when you're seen as this influencer, people think that you are there as clowns to amuse them, like Goodfellas. I'm a clown to amuse you, but that you are there for their entertainment and you must be available at all times. And that's just not the case. And we need to remember that these people are human beings, right? Chris Rock got smacked in the face on public television. Whether he was right or wrong, he's human. Jada Pinkett Smith got made fun of about her alopecia. Whether she's we could find out tomorrow that she's a narcissist, tyrant, terrible person. It still doesn't make it right to make fun of her alopecia. Will Smith smacked a dude in the face, but he's been going through some trauma. He's also human, and we have to remember that, right? And we've got one more comment from Mariah, and then I'm sure that Cece will want me to end the show. Mariah says, how we react to other people's behavior ends up reflecting on us, sometimes more than the other offender's behavior. Even if the person's being affected feels valid, reactions to behavior says a lot about where a person is at mentally, emotionally, depending on the situation. Agreed. And I think you said earlier, Mariah, that had he not reacted in the way he reacted, he would have come out smelling like roses. And I kind of agree with you on that. If he didn't react the way he did, he wouldn't need to make an apology. And I think his apology was classy as heck. He wouldn't need to make an apology. He would have come out looking okay, but you got to remember what's going on the other side. Would Jada have been okay with that? He obviously didn't think that she would have been, and he obviously had a driver that made him do that. And so that's really challenging but agreed with you, what you said, Mariah, putting that energy out there, I'm a firm believer. Bad things have happened to me. Bad things have been done to me. Unfortunately, I've hurt a lot of people, and I've done some bad stuff, and I didn't even realize I was doing it. And so that karma comes back to you. And so you've got to remember where your energy flows is where your energy goes, right? You flow it positive, it's going to happen positive. You flow it negative, you better brace yourself because it's going to come back. And maybe he's had some things in his life that were negative. Maybe that was his release. Who knows? Mandy says, it's the fact that Tiger Woods is more known for his scandalous life than his golf skills. How would the rest of us feel if all of our skeletons were out in the public eye? Love that. Mandy, a couple of things. Yeah, Tiger Woods, one of the best athletes arguably in the world, right? More wins than any other athlete, I think, to this point, right? You know, people called him the Michael Jordan of golf. Not really. Michael Jordan was kind of the Tiger Woods of basketball, right? Just so happens that Michael Jordan had his career first. And we talk about his scandals, right? We talk about Michael Jordan's gambling. I've always said this, as you know, people have talked about me. They've said some really nasty stuff about me, and some of it was true, and some of it was outlandishly false, right? If you're a police officer and you follow anybody for 500 miles, you could put them in prison for the rest of their life. They're going to make mistakes in their car, right? Same thing. If you follow people around, everyone makes mistakes. And so we sit here and we scrutinize and we judge, right? It's the reason that, I'm a person of faith. You've heard me say it in the beginning of my show. I like to pray. I didn't grow up with faith. And so when I speak to a lot of people who are of people of faith, Christians specifically, they say, I can't go to church anymore. Why? Because of the judgment that happens, right? People like to judge in those small communities, right? Those small towns, the Christian churches, the small whatever. And so, we sit here wherever we are and we judge everyone else. And, it's that same Monday morning quarterback feel. I can do whatever I want and say whatever I want because I didn't make the first move. Obama said it great. He talks about, I love this quote from Obama. He talks about being woke a couple of years ago, before being woke was even a thing, right? And in his incredible stature and amazing way that he speaks, it's like he says in his deep voice, I'm going to try to impersonate it. I'm going to sound stupid, but he says, somebody comes out and says something. I'm not even going to try to impersonate it. Somebody comes out and says something, and you, because you are woke or whatever he calls it, you criticize that person to no end, and you persecute them publicly to show everybody how much better than that person you are and how much more intelligent you are and how much more woke you are. And he says, that's what we're doing now. That's cool. That's the cool thing to do. Let me see if I can read it. And then I want to read these last couple of, hold on. Barack Obama on being woke. Let me see if it comes up real quick. Because back then, here's the video. 2019. This was before COVID, before I feel like woke was like a real thing, We'll play the video one day, but he says, oh, hold on, advertisement. Get these advertisements out of here. He says, this idea of purity and you've never compromised and you're politically woke and all that stuff, you should get over that quickly. The world is messy. There are ambiguities. People who do really good stuff have flaws, which I love. But that's not, he said something different as well. He said, hold on. Woke call out culture. Let me see this real quick, and then I'll hold on. Let's see. You want to hear, Mandy? You want to hear the verse? I used to be able to do it. I feel like, he says that's not activism. He says, I do get a sense sometimes now among certain young people that the way of me making change. Here we go. I love it. I do get a sense sometimes now among certain young people that the way of making change is to be as judgmental as possible about other people, and that's enough. And he does it. He just said it. He said, he just says it. He says, I get a sense sometimes now among certain young people that the way of making change is to be as judgmental as possible about other people, and that's enough. And he says it so firmly, and it's like, this is Barack Obama is one of the most woke people in the world. He's telling you to shut up. You know what I mean? Like, stop scrutinizing people, You've got some quick comments, and then we got to go. I know Cece's going to kill me. Let's see. Mariah says, it seems like what we are dealing with are three hurt human beings and then after these last couple comments, we got to go. Three hurt human beings, and all three of them were hurt in that process of this event. I hope that each of them finds their peace and healing. I truly hope that none of their careers suffer long-term and forgiveness is found. I couldn't agree more. I think that's a beautiful statement. I completely agree. Shariva says condemnation is rooted from religion. You're darn right. Mandy says we want to hear the impression. I tried it. I used to be able to do it better. Shariva says I believe in energy. Out is energy in, and we are meant to show love and grace to other humans because we are beautifully flawed. I agree with that. And Mandy clapped for my terrible Barack Obama impersonation. Hey, I want to thank everybody for coming on. Look, I may have said some things wrong. I may have said some things right. It's just me kind of sorting through this thing. I take full responsibility for my thought process. I think at the end of the day, though, I always try to teach and I always try to learn. And here's what we learned today. I think what we learned today is beautifully said by a lot of the folks on our comment board. These are three human beings. Human beings are human beings. You are a human being watching other human beings live their life in your eyes. And the reality is that we don't know everything that's going on with these three human beings, and it really is not on us to judge. Now, is violence the answer? It almost never is. And I say almost because you know what? If you're being bullied, if there's no way out, if you have to save yourself, sometimes violence is the answer. Do I believe that was the case there? No, not necessarily. But I will say this. I believe from that movie, Ender's Game, you ever see that movie and read that book? Great book. He said, I stopped the bully from doing what he was doing, and I continue to fight him so that he can never do it again. And I think in that moment, Will Smith was kind of like Ender in that he needed to make a statement, and a lot was going on in his brain, in his heart, in his soul, in his relationship. And we know nothing about, we know very little about what happened to him in his life in his 50 plus years of being on this planet, him and his relationship with Jada. We know very little about what happened. We think we know more, but we don't necessarily. And the reality is that unless you grew up exactly how he grew up, you don't know. So I think what we learned tonight is that everybody makes mistakes and that we're all human and that there's a time and a place to be corrected, and there's a time and a place to live, and there's a time and a place to heal. And I do hope that all three of these folks heal. I want to thank you all for coming on to our show. This was such an incredible show. A lot of thoughts that got out there, and I hope that I don't get canceled for going through my thought process, because I think by the end of the day, we realize that there's a balance of everything. And I just want to thank you all for getting to that conclusion with me. My name's Dr. Christopher Salute. You are watching WGSN-DB, Going Solo Network Radio. You are watching the Bold Network. This is Bold Wednesdays, where we talk about all things men, all things mental health, all things great, all things wonderful, and we really help each other grow and get to where we need to grow. This is the Barber Shop. That's it. Cut.